Hello, everybody. Hello, Digital Surrey. Good evening. And thank you, Belron. What an amazing office. If you can ever find a blooming place. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I want to come and work here. It's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you for hosting this. And to the Digital Surrey guys, thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you. My name's Allister. If you use that crazy Twitter thing, you'll find me. I'm at Allister F. And I work for Microsoft. My job there is I'm the head of digital marketing strategy, which basically translates as helping marketeers at Microsoft figure out where this whole technology thing is going and how we can use it to achieve our business goals to get people to use Microsoft technologies and to get the value out of them that we create. So that's kind of what I do. But because of that, I spend a lot of time thinking about the way that society is changing, the way that marketing as an industry has to change, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. Something really big is happening, and we all know what's driving it. And of course, I'm from a tech company, so I'm going to say this, but I don't think anyone would disagree. It's technology. We hear stats like this all the time, right? No surprise. The average laptop, not a super fast, expensive, whizzy one, or one of those fruit-based computers some of you may use. The average laptop has got 25,000 times more computing power within it than was in the Apollo lunar landing modules in the very late 60s. Sorry? The IBM made, exactly. And think of the journey that we've come on to get to this point where it's almost disposable technology and we just take it for granted. It's an extraordinary thing. So what I want to do is give you a bit of a framework tonight to understand where this has come from, how it's changing us, and so on. So what we're going to talk about is we need to understand some basic stuff here if we're going to be good marketers in the future. I want to talk about digital society. We need to understand what is the digital society, how are people living their lives, what are their expectations. I want to talk about the psychology of social media, because if you understand what is actually appealing to people's innermost requirements and needs and desires in life, then you're better equipped to take advantage of what the social web offers us. I'm going to talk about the marketer's role, because many marketers I meet don't actually stop to think, what is my purpose now? Has it changed? Can I continue doing what I've always done? It is radically different. And you also need to try to understand what's next. I don't understand what's next. I've not yet met anybody who genuinely does, because it's moving so quick the human brain can't keep up. But that's what we need to understand. And this is real foundation stuff. And where I see many businesses that I talk to, their social media efforts go wrong is because they don't stop to think about what is actually happening here before they just create that Facebook page, do that Twitter thing, get something out there. You've got to understand these things. And when you've got those things in place, you'll be equipped to do it well. And I'll finish with my top tips that will help you to be great marketeers. So let's start by understanding digital society. Now, I've done this chart. It's completely unscientific. The dates are correct. And what I've tried to do is map our journey to connectedness, all right? From the beginning of time, which in Microsoft terms is mid-1970s, through to the present day and beyond. Right, so where we started with technology. Back in the day, the Altair computer that Bill Gates first started doing some coding on, any Commodore 64 owners in the room tonight? We still got, I wish I'd kept that machine, that was a beast. It was the biggest selling personal computer of its age. And the compact disc came along, and then the emergence of mobile phone networks was actually in the mid-1980s. But really, there was not a lot of connectivity between these. It was standalone pieces of tech. Didn't allow you to connect up to other stuff, didn't allow you to connect to people at all. And of course, it really got interesting when some guy, Tim Berners-Lee, invented what we now know as the internet. And from there, we've gone on an extraordinary journey. And these brands have appeared. Yahoo, Netscape, Wi-Fi appeared in the mid-90s. RSS, Google launched, and Facebook came along, BBC iPlayer, Bing, Twitter. These dates are real, and sometimes it's really helpful to remind yourself how recently this stuff has happened. It's not long ago. So that's interesting, and we got more and more connected, right through to an age-old institution like the BBC, God bless them, with the iPlayer, an incredibly connected social technology that they've built. But it gets interesting, because I think that's one path, but there was a parallel path that took longer, and that's hardware. Through the DVD emergence, the early Xboxes, through the Wii, the iPhone, the iPad, and of course, I'm contractually bound to put the Windows Phone 7 at the top of this chart. I hope you appreciate this. But it's actually the coming together of these two lines that's caused this ability, it's given us this ability to be connected not just at our desktops, not just at a fixed point in place, but anywhere we want to be. Top deck of the bus, down the pub, right here, right now, we're connected all the time. And it's that really which has sparked the social media explosion. Not just the technologies that got better and made it happen, but the fact that we can do it everywhere. Because human beings, and I'll refer to this a lot, it's taken us millions of years to evolve to be who we are right now, to sit still without dribbling and talk vaguely coherently as I'm trying to do tonight. We ain't changing that quickly. So we know connected technology at a desk is not going to change society very much. But when you give it to me and I can walk out the cave and I can go wherever I want to go and still have that experience, something incredible happens. So, social media, let's make sure we all understand what it is. I'll give you my definition. This isn't my definition. I found this in a textbook. Social media comprises online applications, platforms, and media focused on collaboration, sharing, and interaction between users. Lots of nice words. I'm not sure I understand any of them. Here's my definition. Let's keep it simple. It's just people having conversations online, right? Take that as your definition and a lot of stuff gets really easy. It's the same conversations we've already had. Down the pub, over the garden fence, the water cooler. It's just human beings having conversations, but they're doing it through different channels because of what technology has given them. But don't get too seduced by the Facebooks and the Twitters and the LinkedIns that we talk about. That is not social media. They are social media enabling technologies. It's not just about those. It's also about all manner of things. So we talk about social networking. It's photo sharing, RSS, microblogging, wikis, search, video sharing, podcasting, bookmarking sites, professional sites, slide sharing through presentations and things like that. But the most potent thing of all is the fact that all of these technologies are connected. They have the same underlying DNA. So if you take a picture of me right now, put it onto Twitter, you can also stick it onto Flickr. With the touch of a few buttons, you can post it on a blog. It's the same content can be repeated and used in lots of places. So the fact that it's connected is interesting. But let's not forget the hardware stream as well, because this is all kind of happening on desktops and mobile phones and so on. And it's not just about these devices. It's also going through to your TV. It's through your gaming console has the capability to tap into all these networks. It's things like this. This is the Logitech Squeeze Box. That's my alarm clock of choice at the moment. It sits by on my bedside table. And it can bring in Facebook updates. It can bring in Spotify music streams. It can bring in all sorts of crazy stuff if I want it. It's probably not more than you could do with a mobile phone on a docking station. But it's a really cheap, wonderful device. I love it. But it's also things like this. TomTom, completely useless today. But TomTom, this device, the Go Live 10:05 World, will tweet the arrival time if you want it to. So your friends can follow the stream and get updates on your journey and see how you're going. The technology that's in these things now allows you to see socially where your contacts are and what they're doing and what speeds they're doing and so on. Incredible devices like, we got any runners in the room? Any runners? Yeah, it's all thin people. I'm not a runner. I'm just doing this for demonstration purposes. But this could make me want to run, maybe. Nike Plus, incredible. GPS enabled through your iPhone or through other devices. This TomTom powered phone, actually, watch rather, can allow you to not just go for a run, but obviously then map that run information, see the times, see the speeds that you're doing. If you've got a playlist running through iTunes, then you can see what your playlist was. You can compare the runs that your friend is doing. Maybe they take a different route. Maybe they power up that hill faster than you. You can say, why is that? And then you realize that they got a bit of Lady Gaga going on and you're stuck with your Coldplay. Take their playlist, go and do it. Incredible technology for runners. You used to have to pay thousands of pounds to get a coach to tell you virtually the same information, right? It's all available to you through the social web. So think about this stuff as well. But I'm talking about our society, and we have a really polarized society right now. I show this cartoon because I think this lady didn't look like my mum, but this is my mum, right? This is the sort of thing she'd say. I have an even smaller wireless device that can access thousands of books and movies. It's a library card. And I would not get her to use some of this stuff if I tried for months and months. She doesn't want to know. She's of a generation where she's not interested in that. She doesn't see a need for it. She's quite happy with the way things are. And there is large parts of the population that are still like this. So while we sit here as digital Surrey, obviously we're thinking about this stuff. Continually remind yourself that out there in the real world, it ain't like that. Not everybody's driving around in minis with iPhones and iPads and all this stuff. It's a very different world. It's a great interview, and you can go on YouTube and search for everything's wonderful and nobody's happy. So it's a great interview. But it's really interesting because this is where society's got to. We've got a young generation that Louis C.K. describes there who take this stuff completely for granted. The digital natives, they've never known anything else. And they get frustrated when things take a nanosecond. And then we've got my mum at the other end who really doesn't want to know anything about it. So as marketeers, we have a really interesting challenge on our hands to appeal. If we want to broaden our appeal and appeal to the mass market, we have to do things still for these different types of people. So understand that society. I also talked about something big is happening. I want to talk about how big this thing is. We all get used to seeing this. But there's some stuff that I find really interesting. It's quite powerful. For example, this is a site by a guy called Gary Hayes. If you search for Gary Hayes, you'll find it straight away. And this just runs on the website. And you can go there anytime. You're trying to convince your boss, your mum, a client that this stuff is real. Take a look at this. All right, in the last 20 seconds, nearly 300,000 items shared on Facebook, 1 million videos watched on YouTube, 24 hours uploaded to YouTube since this slide began. You've got new Twitter accounts, nearly 200. Think about this. Boom, 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 boom. The pace of this is extraordinary. So you can go to this site and you can take a look at this stuff. Another way of looking at it is to say, well, what happens in the average 60 seconds on the web today? And again, some amazing stats that just blow my brain. 98,000 tweets in 60 seconds. It didn't exist a few years ago. There's 320 new Twitter accounts. Don't underestimate that. They might be in Africa or India or miles away from where we are tonight. But right now, someone is taking that first bold step onto Twitter, and they're doing it at a rate of faster than you can imagine. Look at Facebook. 700,000 Facebook updates, 80,000 wall posts, 500,000 comments every 60 seconds. Now, you can't possibly monitor all this stuff, but if you're in business, I can guarantee, unless you're really incredibly boring, someone is talking about you somewhere within all of this. Maybe not in the last 60 seconds, but certainly within the last 24 hours. And you need to understand this if you're going to keep up with it. Another way of looking at this is to say, well, looking at August, what was the average hour that was spent online in the UK, right? So remember those halcyon days of the summer, we were all walking around in shorts and t-shirts, having barbecues because it was such a glorious summer. I may have got my facts mixed up there. But this is what the average hour looks like. And incredibly, the biggest area is social media. Nearly a quarter of that hour is spent by people doing stuff on social media. Now, this chart has not changed in about 2 years. Very small variances. But that social media piece is stuck at 14 minutes. That seems to be the threshold that people can tolerate, right? What's interesting, you've got entertainment, 9 minutes. Now, think about that. You've got BBC, Martin Scorsese. You've got incredible multi-billion-dollar budgets trying to get your attention, and they're getting 9 minutes of the hour. Right? We've got some others, shopping, news, adult, 2 minutes. Actually, the average visit to an adult site in the UK, I looked this up just for research purposes, 7 minutes, 22 seconds. Who knew? I don't know. Your mileage may vary. 2 minutes on that's getting squeezed at the moment. There's loads of all sorts of crazy stuff. But within that social media, 14 minutes, that equates to 800 million, my mum would say, wasted hours per month. The average visit for social media consumption is 20 minutes. On entertainment, it's only 10. I'll come to you in a sec. Only 10. So with all those billions of dollars of budget that's spent, entertainment is managing to get half the attention span for people than the social media. It's incredibly sticky. Andy, sorry.
They're obviously defining social media in a particular way, not the way that you define it at the beginning.
Yes, not just about people having conversations. It's largely about people spending time on the big networks, doing stuff on the big networks, sharing stuff and so on. So that's how Hitwise look at this. But it's incredibly sticky. So we need to understand this stuff, right, if we're going to be good marketeers. And the other thing that I often hear is, oh yeah, but not everyone uses it. And I've said myself that the older generation don't necessarily use it. This is the percentages of different age bands. This is US data, but it's broadly the same in the UK, who use social media. So yes, when you get to the 74 pluses, fewer than 1 in 5 are using social media. That's understandable. But at the top end there, the 18 to 33s, it's an extraordinary 83%. So if we just compare that with the percentage of each of those age bands that's actually online, what you start to see is the gaps are really small. This thing is almost completely universal. If you're online, you're likely to be doing this. And actually the gaps relatively, yes, they're slightly larger in this age range here, but to a fairly large extent, you know, there's not a huge amount of more opportunity for social media. It's pretty universal. Actually, if you compare it with what is the universal measure for being a sophisticated online user, right? So rather than just someone who's got an email account and that's all they do, and they maybe go to do a search once a month, people who watch video online, that's kind of the universal measure of a relatively advanced internet user. You see the gaps are even smaller, right? So actually here, the 18 to 33s, they're more likely to be doing social media than even watching stuff on YouTube or iPlayer or 4 on demand. You've got so it's much higher in 12 to 17-year-olds, and you see the gaps are really tiny. So the whole generational thing, I'm sorry, it's over. It's there. Social media is pretty much a universal habit now. The other thing that I hear is, yeah, but it's only a Twitter. You know, you're talking to yourself in an echo chamber. Who cares, right? Well, that is largely true. Most of the time that's true. Unless you're incredibly lucky, you're incredibly wise, or you've got a lot of fans, you're unlikely to cause an internet sensation, however hard you try. But if we take this example, which was inspired by something I saw at ngonlinenews.com, day in the life of a tweet. If I were to stand here now, take a picture of you right now, tweet something amusing, witty, or just interesting to the world, right? I can put that onto Twitter. I can also instantly post it to Facebook, for example. That content, if it's good, will get retweeted by some of you. Might be happening right now. It can enter the blogosphere. Someone might pick up on that and say, actually, this is really interesting. We should do this thing in Milan or somewhere else. Then the picture gets posted on Flickr, or it goes onto blog sites. Maybe it's getting indexed by Google and Bing. Bing indexes in real time. This isn't an ad for Bing, by the way, but it surfaces this content in real time. So if it's a good thing and lots of people are buzzing about it and it's unique content, I could be top of the search results within a matter of minutes if it's that potent. It's also then going to get submitted to bookmarking sites, and more people are going to discover it. It can go from Facebook through to LinkedIn, all kind of other crazy networks. It even get used in office emails, and it can go round and round the web forever. There is no delete button. I've looked for it. It doesn't exist. So this is how this stuff can move. And I've got a real-life example for you. Anyone remember these? Panda Pops. Yeah, lots of nods. You like your Panda Pops? When was the last time you had a Panda Pop? A while ago. Look at this. 17th of February. You know when someone dies and you think, I didn't realize they were still alive? Panda Pops were discontinued last month after 35 years. I didn't even know that until I saw this. But here's an example. This is one guy, fewer than 100 followers. Look at what happened. These are some of the tweets. It got retweeted, you can see there actually, it's on there. 100 plus others. Check this out. No more Panda Pops. Oh my God, this is sad news. Strawberry and jelly and ice cream was the shiz back in the day. I don't know what that means. It's calling for a day of anger over the end of Panda Pops. What will I get from the ice cream van this summer when I'm out running? Can the Twitter community do for Panda Pops what Facebook did for the Whisper Bar? They've stopped making Panda Pops. That has radically affected my opinion on having children. Why would I bring any into such a cruel world? It's the internet. All human life is there. But welcome it. Panda Pops hadn't had any publicity in years, went out of business as a result, and one guy tweets this, and that's the stream. Over 100 people. He has now, yeah. He's picked up a lot of followers on the back of this case study because a lot of people say that's really extraordinary. But this is what happened on that day, 17th of February.
Was it true though?
Yes, true. It was discontinued. Yeah, it was. They took the brand out. They had financial difficulties, so they went out of business. But over in the USA, there's a site for Brits who live in the USA from the BBC, and it's what's going on in the UK right now. So on the 17th of February, there were two things that were going on. There were some solar flares that you may not remember. Basically, these solar flares were going to destroy all of humanity and kill us all, right? That was number one, quite a big story. Number two, Panda Pops. I kid you not. This is how potent this got, is that it got so much attention. They picked it, the BBC picked it as the number 2 happening in the UK for expats based in the US. Now, that doesn't happen all the time, but it shows it can. And so if you understand the mechanisms, maybe you can take advantage of it. So that's society. We need to understand the psychology of social media as well if we're to do well, because so many people assume it's like old-fashioned marketing, and it really is not. So, why do people use social media? This is a great study from Universal McCann. If you look up Universal McCann Wave Study, they release this public data. They are my media agency, but it is really good content. And they do it globally. fantastic insights you'll get out of it. And I looked at the top 10 and I've put it into 4 buckets. These are my categories. The top one is community. The reason people state for using social media, I want to meet new people, stay in touch with friends and feel like I belong. Right? Big percentages, 60, 70%. Second area is I want to share stuff. I want to share my experiences and I want to share what I know. The third area is work, but much lower percentages, right? I do it to promote myself, make contacts, earn respect, and I suspect many of you in the room would cite this as a key motivator for you. And the final area I've called play, and it's just fun and entertainment. It comes in quite low. Now, notice, please, that nowhere on here does it say to see advertising. Nowhere does it say to go and buy stuff, to have brands shouting at me. It doesn't say that. This is the real motivations. And what's interesting, if we look at, say, Facebook, and I know you won't be able to may not be able to read this at the back, you know, the reasons that people use Facebook are it's reconnecting with friends and family, maintaining personal contact, staying on top of my social life, filling downtime. It's a guilty pleasure. I like that expression. But again, there's nothing on here about to be advertised at, to see marketing messages, to buy stuff. And actually, it's radically different when you ask people, this, by the way, is from Exact Target, again, a fantastic study, subscribers, fans, and followers, SFF study. Look it up, it's amazing, so much data in there will help you. But if we look at what Twitter itself tells us, why do people follow brands? Well, you know, the average person, well, the majority follow fewer than 10 brands on Twitter. But look at the motivations. Why do you follow? To get discounts, to participate in contests, customer service. So the relationship that people have with brands online, radically different to the relationship they have with their people. And this really pains me as a member of the marketing industry because I think we've created this, because this is the entry point for many brands, is they'll start pushing discounts, pushing offers, trying to sell stuff to people. And so that's the reason now we've created this beast. People are now using brands through social media for this sort of purpose. It's not healthy, but it's so different. And again, if we look at the reasons from the Exact Target study, why people unlike brands on Facebook, we see that it's about posting too frequently. My wall was getting crowded with marketing messages. Content became repetitive or boring. It's all stuff that's pushing back against what marketers try to do in pushing and selling their wares. So this is a really unhealthy place for brands. You actually want to be in that category where you're a friend, where you're a trusted party, but actually many brands are creating the opposite, which is one that you would want to unlike because they're doing stuff that doesn't appeal to you in the new way you live your life. So what we need to understand then is get beneath the surface of the motivations that make people share stuff, right? This study was really interesting. New York Times released this recently. They asked, why do you share stuff? Because sharing is the currency of the social web. It might just be sharing the fact that you're here tonight, sharing a photo, sharing a like. You know, this is a form of sharing online. And these are the reasons people give, from left to right in priority order, to bring valuable content to others. I do this to help other people. It's not for my benefit. That is the main reason that people share. I define myself through the stuff that I share, through what I say. That is my persona online, and that influences my offline persona. And I'm sure you all feel this as well, because you can nurture your persona and personality through these channels. To grow and nourish our relationships, of course, that's staying in touch with people. For self-fulfillment, so this is just about me, this is something I'm doing for myself. And the very last one, with a really low percentage, to support causes. And they didn't even say brands. I put brands in brackets, because I think if we're really, really good and we work hard and we play nicely together, maybe someone might cite brands as being a reason to use it. But we're so far from that right now. The other thing that was fascinating in this study, I found, was that the New York Times looked at they tried to categorize the different type of sharers. And I found this really interesting. This has sparked some research that we do at Microsoft to think about, well, how do we do stuff? And the different types of sharers, they put them into these 6 buckets. There were the altruists, who are just doing it for the good of humanity, and that's their motivation. People doing it for career motivations. The hipsters, too cool for school, they're doing it because this defines who they are. They've heard that latest track before anybody else. The boomerangs are interesting. They share content because they want something to come back. Right? They're doing it for a conversation. They're throwing something out there, and their motivation is they want something back. They sit there waiting for the feed to come in. Come on, refresh. There must be something. Connectors connect people. People like Abigail are brilliant at this. They put people together, they join individuals up. And then finally you've got the selectives, who are very selective in the way that they share content. They won't just pump it out to their whole network. They'll look to try to pick up the individuals who are right for the content. Now, if you understand this stuff and you think about this for your business, this can radically change your approach to social media. Because if you actually look at it and you say, you know what? The people that we're really trying to get on board are careerists. That's what motivates them. Then the type of content you share, the way you communicate, the way you help them to achieve what they want in life, it's going to be totally different to if you didn't have this segmentation in mind. So please think about this stuff. You may have different categories you identify, but try to use this because it will change the way you do social media and marketing. So that's some on the psychology. I want to talk about the marketer's role now, because marketing has changed so dramatically, right? Right back in the beginning of time, for me at least, I started work in the early 1990s. I kind of had this stuff to deal with. It was a really simple, short list. And as time's gone on, it's grown. We've seen new technologies come along. There are more and more channels. There are more and more ways that I can reach people. By the 2000s, the chart was getting full. By 2011, it's over full. You cannot fit it all on. And so we've gone from this place, what Seth Godin describes, I think very, very distinctly, very cleverly, as from a scarcity of spectrum to a scarcity of attention, right? The spectrum, there was only one TV ad channel that you could put something on, and you had to run your ad then, or that's all you got. There was only a certain number of newspapers. Now we've got all this other stuff, and people don't have enough attention to listen to everything that's going on. It's radically different for marketers. And this is what it looked like when I started out. That was me. I sat in my ivory tower, as all good marketeers do. And the man came to me and he said, here's some money. I want you to go and solve all the world's problems. Here's some money, some budget, and go out and do something. So I said, right, okay, fine, I'll make some TV ads, put some ads in the newspaper. There was even a thing called the Yellow Pages back then. I think that doesn't exist anymore. And that thing up there, that's not an email, by the way. You may not remember this. This is a real letter. It's actual paper. You print something out, and then you'd get a stamp and you'd stick it on. You give it to a man, lick the stamp, and you had to give it to someone, and then eventually it arrived and it went through your door. So that was what was going on there. And really, it was me in control. I was just pumping stuff out on my schedule, on my terms, with my budget. There was one other thing, customer care line. Frankly, this was all we had in the early 90s that was giving us an inbound fee. Yeah, we could go and do focus groups and research, but you know what? Most of the time, people couldn't get at us in our ivory tower. So people would ring up, they'd complain about something. It was fine, we sent them some vouchers or whatever. We kept them happy. Nobody else needed to know about it. It was nice. Then, in the 2000s, I started noticing all these people popping up because my perfect world of marketing, pumping out messages had changed because these people were everywhere and they were talking to each other. Some of them were even talking about my ads. Some of them were even talking about my brands. Some of them had opinions that I didn't agree with, and they were talking right over the top of my brilliant multi-million-dollar marketing campaign.
So, sorry, Alistair, weren't they doing that already in the past, etc., in terms of what you said earlier? It's just now you noticed it.
Yes, they were doing it, but they didn't have a voice that allowed them to have a global reach, potentially, right? So that Panda Pops guy.
Simon Coke about that. He'll tell you how social networking worked in 1986.
Yeah.
When they tried to kill Coke.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying consumers had never had power. I'm not saying that's the case. But it was much harder to mobilize than it is today because you can have a brand that's really low interest, really not that interesting, but you can reach your network of 100 people, maybe 50 people, instantly with an opinion, which can damage brands, right? And you just couldn't do that. You couldn't mobilize like Pepsi and Coke did in those days. So it's not like this is a new phenomenon. It's just the tools that we've got to do it are so much more powerful than we've ever had before, and many consumers are drunk on this power. And what we've got now is this huge issue of trust, because who do you trust? People did used to trust the big brands. They used to trust the newspapers. They used to trust the voices of authority that told them what they had to believe. Sorry? Don't trust clout. No, that's another debate. You're quite right there. So we've got this issue of trust, and we all know the stat. It's an old one. Nielsen did the study a few years ago. 90% of people trust recommendations from people they know, right? Makes sense. If I know you and I say, my car's really great, you're going to believe me. My car's really great. You might be more open to buying one next time you get a car. Let's break that data down. Right at the top there, recommendations to people I know. Trust completely, trust somewhat. That's your 90%. Look at how it drops off. These are the key categories that Nielsen looked at. Brand websites, around about 70%. Consumer opinions posted online, editorial content, and it goes down and down and down to one of my personal pet hates, text ads on mobile phones, Absolutely, you have no trust in them at all. And unscientifically, if you draw a line on this thing, you can sort of say, well, above 70% or thereabouts, you've got this stuff which people trust, therefore that would be good. And below it, you've got stuff that people trust less, which is perhaps less potent, less useful for us. And in my terminology, this is my language, I describe the stuff at the top as conversing and the stuff at the bottom as shouting, advertising. Shouting your message from your ivory tower to get people to hear you in the hope that they will respond to that. Now, it's not a perfect line, but look, it's all about advertising and things like that down at the bottom. And that's what we need to do. We need to shift from shouting to conversing. I'll come back to that. And all of this stuff here you see about advertising, I want to really, if you work in a big company and you get that brief that says, oh, we're launching this thing, and we're going to do this big awareness campaign, I don't get it. To my mind, there is no such thing today as an awareness campaign. Because if you've done it right, you're only ever one click from purchase. You're one click away. Why would you do an awareness campaign that's so short-sighted? Now, I'm not saying there isn't a role for it. It takes, there are big brands, there are small brands, and sometimes you have to nurture the marketplace and build trust to a point where then you can put that one click in place. But for many businesses, doing awareness campaign advertising is satisfying the needs of the marketing advertising agencies' needs. It's not necessarily the right thing for brands.
I think it might be right for B2C, but for B2B, awareness campaigns are critical.
Yes, they are, but you can still be one click away. And I would challenge, I work largely in B2B.
We're not one click away from selling millions of pounds.
No, you're not click away from the sale, but you're click away from some data tracking, some insights about that customer, the ability to talk to them on the phone, to connect them to LinkedIn, do a million things, whatever's right for your business. You're still one click away, and yes, the journey is longer in B2B, but it can still be that start point can be what gets you to the end point, right? It is different, I appreciate that. And so at Microsoft, what we tried to do is we tried to spend about 80% of our budget on digital marketing. Now, the only thing really that we spend money on that's not digital is TV nowadays, because frankly, everything is, right? And I sort of struggle even with the notion of being the head of digital marketing strategy, because as seeing as all marketing is digital, am I the head of everything now, am I? I can't do that. So we try to spend about 80%, but we have to also understand this concept of this is the old-fashioned shouty bit, right? We're spending the money, we're buying attention. We might be doing it in nice ways through new channels, we might be doing beautiful advertising, whatever, but that's kind of the shouty bit. There's all this other stuff in your owned network, right? So you own your websites, the brochures, the packaging, the van signage, the sign outside your building, all of this stuff you own, right? It's a channel, you can do stuff with it, and you can actually make sign outside a building, if it's appropriate, you can make it digital. It doesn't actually cost that much. You could have a dynamic sign, or you could just have a QR code on there to encourage people to find out what the heck goes on behind the door. So it's all of those things, but there's also this earned stuff. You earn media, and this is where it's really exciting as a marketeer, because now you're not paying for it, it's people talking about you because you've got something useful to say. So it's all of these channels, but it's also the conversations at the pub. It's when people get excited when you do something like Connect at Microsoft. That's earned media, that's buzz, excitement, right? So we have to think about those areas. And that's why we're doing a ton of work to try to get our hands around this social media thing. We have more reports than you can shake a stick at Microsoft, looking at what's going on, ups, downs, seeing what works. And if you've not got this stuff, this is what advertising becomes. For you, it's now become the cost of not being in the conversation, of being outside of the conversation. Hugh MacLeod, the cartoonist, called this the cost of being boring, which is even more succinct than my definition. But if that's all you've got, if you have no conversation, if you don't get this stuff, all you've got left is advertising. And the bad news is it's going to be less efficient tomorrow than it is today, and forevermore, because the genie's out of the bottle and people have the ability to talk about stuff. You better get used to it. So at Microsoft, we have our products, and we do things like this is the Windows Phone 7, you get similar functionality on other things, but I just look at a contact, I can see the updates from that person, or Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, whichever social networks I've connected. I don't have to go to an app, it's just there. I'm looking for that person, I want to phone them, but I can see they're at the beach, I'm not going to phone them, right? I can post comments straight away, I can just move really quickly from doing something like looking up a contact to make a call to sharing some information and get out again. So this is the way that technology is being designed now. It's not about standalone, it just permeates everything that we do. And that's why things like this, I find this is great fun to do. If you've got an event on or something, you can on Twitter, on Bing, you can just map tweets as they happen. So you can, this is where I work, by the way. These are Microsoft campus, got 5 buildings, and I can just go in there and I can see who's tweeting. So what's going on? There's a cluster of tweets around here. I can see there's a photo shared up here, and I can instantly see what's going on around me, and I get a sense of what's on them people's minds. It's a really great tool. That's why with things like email, good old-fashioned Outlook, well, it's actually the bit down the bottom that interests me, because if I put the Outlook connectors, which are free, I can now get feeds come in from Facebook and LinkedIn. So rather than looking at that guy and saying, who sent me this? I can instantly see if it's one of my contacts, what their updates are, what I've shared with them. I can see he's been in Zurich, so I've got a conversation starter. And these people here, the silhouettes, I'm getting really suspicious about you people, because what have you got to hide? And doesn't mean I have to be connected to everybody, but obviously where there's a face, it's someone that I'm connected to who's in my network. But if there's nothing there, and really there is nothing there, so you're not on any of these networks, you're not doing any of this stuff for yourself, then increasingly you become a bit of a mysterious individual, and people will be slightly suspicious of you. It's like, what have you got to hide? So take a look at that. That silhouette, by the way, is Bill Gates when he got arrested for speeding. One of the developers put it in there, and it's only after we launched the product we realised what he'd done. So that's the interesting stuff in the email, is the stuff below the line that I can see what people are up to. That's why for a site like this, which is just our case study site, right? And I could say this because I'm responsible for this one. It's pretty dull, really. It's just case studies about people using Microsoft stuff. But look at the amount of social content we got on here. We can say how many people have viewed it, who's rated it, if they've shared it. We make it easy to go to bookmarking sites. You can email it, and there's even for the masochists an RSS feed, so you can get this stuff coming down at you all day long. So if your site or the businesses that you work with don't have this sort of capability, and this is really basic, this is not a clever example at all, then you're not allowing people, if they see this thing, they think, oh, that's really great, they might be a connector and they want to just share it with one person, but that one person happens to have a $1 million budget right now that's perfect for this moment. If you're not making it easy for them to share it through the social web, you are losing out on business. So that's all of that stuff. I'm going to talk now about what's next. And this is the hard bit, frankly, because what is next? Okay. What is next? I'm going to show you 4 hot trends. The thing with trends is they always look old when you look back on them. These were hot at the time. They're not anymore. But the 4 things that I'm going to talk about. Geo. We all know that a mobile device, a smartphone, GPS enabled, is an extraordinary device for location activities. We kind of get used to the fact that we can see amazing visuals of where we are and where we want to go. But there's great sites like GoWalla, there's Foursquare, which is trying to make people, enable people to get benefits and to connect with others and see where they go. But there are also some really fun apps that I've seen. So this one is by Swiftcover, the purple one. And it's an app, it's iPhone, I believe. And it's, so you can, whenever you get stuck, you go in this app and you say, I'm stuck. I don't know, stuck in the toilet, stuck in traffic, who knows? But it's a way for them to collect data about their members and sort of see, well, when do you get stuck? It's just a point solution. Not a great one, but really interesting that they've enabled this to happen. This is Zombie Run on Android. This could make me run, actually. In fairness, this could make me run. So this is you're going for your run, and you have to get away from the zombies. The green zombies are okay, the red zombies are on your trail, and basically you have to run until you die. But again, a really interesting application that just using this geo data. So it's all there, all of this stuff, paperless ticketing, geo gaming, trip planning, all of this stuff. We take it for granted. Huge opportunities for businesses, as indeed there was for Digital Surrey this evening, if they'd helped me get here on time. Crowd. We hear about crowdsourcing, but there's much more to crowd than this. We remember the Rage Against the Machine against poor little Joe McElderry, where toppled him and did so he didn't get his Christmas #1 because one guy on Facebook had had enough and rallied enough troops to get Rage Against the Machine on the top. There's also incredible crowd things like GiftGaff, a mobile phone network that's run by you. So the more you contribute to the helps forums and the answers and so on, the more minutes you get. So basically they don't have a call center, they don't have a staff, it's just the members looking out for each other. Things like, I love this one, Quirky is a really neat thing, quirky.com. go there if you're a gadget guy, because there's just loads of stuff on there. If you've got an idea, an invention, you can put it onto Quirky, say, I need 500 people to commit to buy this. When they do, you've got enough money committed that you can go and get it manufactured and you're off and running. There's things like threadless T-shirts we know about. Waze, which is, again, a satellite navigation thing that uses the crowd knowledge to understand, well, what's happening on the roads around you. So crowd stuff is really, really important. And there's so much that you can do with this if you know how to tap into it correctly. The next area is social shopping. And this is already huge and it's going to be massive. Now, we all know about Amazon and so on, but this is an example here. This is Starbucks, the red cups for Christmas, they're back. And if you've got an iPhone there, you can point it at the cup and then you can play a game. It's a free app that they've made. Now, they've only done it for the iPhone, which is a bit short-sighted because it means it only reaches a small percentage of the market, but probably important to them. Well, it is only 10% of the population, so if they'd done a crazy website that more people could see, then they'd probably have had a better result. This example at the top is Wired magazine, and Wired readers are totally tuned into all this stuff. But Olympus did this ad, and you just scan the QR code, and that's me doing it. And basically they said, put your smartphone here, and it brings the ad to life. So there's a little video just plays off of YouTube. Again, not a brilliant example, but I think it's interesting that even in Wired magazine, they felt the need to explain what a QR code is. Right? So Amazon, we all know about this, the recommendations engine. Scavenger, an app for iPhone and Android, which is puts a gaming layer on the world. So if you go in a restaurant, you might find there's a game there. You make a paper hat out of your napkin and take it up to the counter. You'll get a free drink or something. That was a real-world poster that was in Topshop, encouraging students to go in, play games in Topshop at the start of the term. There's things like QR codes. That's a bad example, but if you're doing this stuff, you've got to have great mobile content. But what I want on that is I want to be able to see, right, what does this taste like? What are the reviews? What do I eat with it? I want that instant as I go around the supermarket. Things like near-field communications. That's a daft thing because that's an iPhone which doesn't have it. There are only a couple of devices I think that have got near-field communications at the moment, but it's going to be coming in lots more devices fairly soon. So this means you can do away with your Oyster card and you can just pay for things as you go from your mobile phone. That will just be so old hat in a few years' time we won't even think about it. And even things like, this is Tesco selling Facebook credits, for goodness sake. The retailers are desperately trying to figure out, well, it's going to happen, this thing, whether I like it or not, so I might as well try and make some margin off the back. So all of this stuff that's going on is transforming the world. eBay did a deal last month with Facebook to use the Facebook Open Graph to enable their platform to become much more sociable. So you can see what other people are doing, what your friends are doing when you're shopping on eBay. Trying to outdo Amazon by getting in with Facebook. Blippy, Spotify, you've all probably heard of. Amazing social entities that allow you to do some incredible things that you couldn't do before. And this is the last one of the four. And it's not really sexy, but you've got to get good at this if you're in marketing. It's data mining. And I've got some examples on here. This is just Twitter and Flickr activity that shows you the map. That's London, that's the UK. You could do this for a keyword, for example. You say, well, who's mentioned auto glass? And it will show you where they are on the map. It takes seconds to do. This one, you can see the little dots there. This one is the west coast of America, and each one of those dots is a swear word. This is a month of data in 90 seconds. And the little dots are sort of nice swear words. There's some F words in there, and every so often someone drops a biggie. So you boom, that has seismic proportions. But the data builds over time, and you can see where people are swearing. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to use that, but you could very easily adapt that for your business and see what's going on around you. This one's at the top here. This is Twitter. This is people mentioning 111111. So you can see it scrolling across the world. Again, it's all there. It's just got to use it. And I love this one. I did this one. This is there's a site called timeu.se, built by a student at Cornell University, completely free to use. And I just went in there and I put a search for beer, wine, and vodka. Right, so beer is the red line. So you can see, the fascinating thing is this tells you everything you'd expect, right? It's a silly example, but look, this is Sunday, that's Saturday. As you go through the week, your need for beer increases. The beer guys kick in about an hour before the wine guys, because the beer guys really can't wait. And they really peak on a Saturday night. And then the wine guys kick in a bit, and then it drops off again. Then the vodka guys kick in about midnight. So at a much lower level. It's silly data, but it's all there. You can do a free search right now. Look for when do people talk about Christmas or Halloween or whatever it is that you're trying to ride on the back of. Who uses LinkedIn? I would expect a lot of people here, right? LinkedIn, the single most powerful thing in LinkedIn, completely free, is up here in the corner. There's an advanced search button. Who's clicked the advanced search? It is amazing. It's free. If you want certain more advanced filters, you need to pay for an account. But I went in here and look, I put in our postcode here, which of course is somewhere else, according to my TomTom. 25-mile radius, anyone who mentions motoring, right? And I've instantly got, I've got some motorists here, there's second-degree connections. But that means I know somebody who knows them. It's really easy now for me to pick up the phone to that person and say, all right, I really want to talk to Quinton Wilson because I'm doing this thing and I want to, can I get connected? You can do this for anything, your golf day. You can search for words and you'll reach people that you didn't know exist. So it gets you out of your normal client network into incredible places. So they're the 4 things. And really, my mantra is we've got to stop shouting, advertising, boom, 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 start conversing, talking to people. And I'm going to finish because we've done all of this. If we understand this stuff for our unique worlds and we understand where society's going, now we can think about doing it well, doing great marketing. And here are my 12 tips for marketeers who are trying to get a handle on where to go. The first thing you need to do is you do need to invest in social leadership. If you're in a small business, that's you. You need to, or if you're in a medium business, it may still be you, it may be somebody around the business who's got the nous, who understands this, who can set the strategic direction. And separately, you need to invest in social players. Because if you're a leader, if you've got the vision on this thing, you don't want to spend every hour of your day monitoring Twitter, Facebook, and all this other stuff, or whatever you do. You want, there are more junior people who will really adore that, and they've got the energy and the enthusiasm to keep doing that day in, day out, and it can be exhausting. These are very different skills. Do not get them confused. And for goodness sake, if you're a social leader, do not allow yourself to become a social player because you will lose sight of the strategic reasons why you're doing it. You have to invest in tools and expertise. There's a lot of free stuff out there that's really great. This is one of the hardest ones to get right. And at Microsoft, we are a long way from getting it right. Building our own tools, we're trying different tools that third parties have built. We're trying to figure out what's right for us. There is no mature platform here. You have to look at it, work out what's right for your business, and really ask tough questions of the vendors who are trying to sell you a tool or a solution to do the listening or response. Develop your SRO strategy. Now, we've all heard of SEO, search engine optimization. A lot of people are talking about social media optimization, SMO. I don't like that because it's not about optimizing for social media. This is social recommendation optimization. All right? What you need to do is think about how do I optimize everything I do so that it will be recommended through social channels. SRO. It was Carol Bartz at Yahoo, who I had the pleasure of meeting once, and she was talking about this as something that they were doing at Yahoo. And it's a really smart way of thinking about it. SMO is short-sighted. That's what the social media gurus will sell you. SRO is what you should be doing. Well, recommendation optimization is thinking that it doesn't matter which channel it is. It doesn't matter how it happens. It might be that my TV ad is just optimized so that people can talk about it in really easy ways. Social media optimization puts you in a bucket of thinking about social media channels. It's about enabling people to... Social recommendation optimization. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you could look at it, I mean, it's semantics. You could look at the different ways of describing it and the language used, but as a relationship, yeah, it's about building relationships, but at a very superficial level, if you're a brand in all truth. It's about actually getting people to do your work for you and recommend your stuff so that you don't have to do that. That's what it's about. We can talk later on that one. The next thing you have to do is, I missed one, didn't I? Listen, then engage. Don't assume that you know the answers. Don't just start shouting stuff out onto Facebook or whatever. You've got to listen, understand the channel, and then engage. And when you've done that, you can start answering with social telephone. Think of it as a telephone. If there was a telephone in the corner of the office and it was ringing, someone would pick it up. That telephone, it's a metaphorical telephone, but it's ringing right now. If you're not picking it up, your business is losing opportunities. Moderate wisely. I love this example. This was from ABC Network. And they launched a new show called Pan Am. Has anyone seen that yet? They did this thing where if you tweeted the hashtag, you could win a Pan Am bag. This is what happened in the weekend. Pan Am, where are you going tonight? Somewhere exotic. Woman moving her incredible breast without touching. Yes, you got it. The spammers took control of that hashtag. what ABC didn't do is moderate. They turned it on a Friday, all went to the pub, and this thing ran all weekend like this. I saw it, I got a screenshot. Don't make that mistake. That's your brand associated with Jennifer Lopez and Justin Bieber and all the rest of it. So moderate wisely. Really important concept. We're nearly done. Create social objects. Think about the marketing you do as gifts to your customers. Sometimes you'll just create something, a video on YouTube, that explains something. There's no commercial benefit for you, but you get something back in return. Happy to talk about social objects later. So many different ways you can go, but you've got to think of it as a gift. It's not just, I'm doing this white paper because I know it converts to that many sales. It's about doing something for the benefit of the community at large and then getting the returns in later. Make everything better when it's shared. Thank people for sharing. Thank them, reward them. Just encourage it and make it better for them when they do that. And handpick your interfaces. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to do everything. It's better to do one thing well than 4 things badly. So handpick where your audience is. And you know what? They might not even be on these networks. There might be some creaky forum in a dark corner of the web where they're all hanging out and they're talking about this stuff day in, day out. Go and find it. That's where your social web should be. Easy to say, hard to do. Be remarkable. Remarkable in the original sense of the word. Do things that people will remark upon. Be remarkable. Show some personality. This is the Frost personality continuum. I invented my own model because I thought everyone should have one. And basic idea is there are 2 extremes. You can be a company robot talking like the chairman about the financial results and droning on and on and on about some tedious corporate thing that no one cares about. Or you could be the juvenile delinquent who's always drunk and sharing you pictures of his new underpants. Now, you don't want to be at either of those extremes all of the time, but you do need to move. It's okay, you're human beings, and people will have conversations with you because you're showing some personality. So it's okay sometimes to tweet about the new coffee machine in the office. It's got nothing to do with your business, but it shows you're excited because there's something that happened and you're human, right? So think about the continuum and move around it. Crucially, you'd obviously expect me to say this, fail fast, but learn faster. Continuous pilot testing, learn, learn, learn. You've got to move fast because this thing is on an exponential curve, and if you want to keep up, you've got to try stuff. So they're my 12 tips. I'd like you to leave your definitions of marketing at the door on the way out, because I don't think a lot of stuff in those dusty test books works anymore. I think the world has changed, and it's up to us as an industry to define what that means for us. Thank you all very much for listening.